Chapter 7. The header. The brother of Jared is shown the world as it appeared at the time of the Garden of Eden. He witnesses the creation of the sun and the planets, and the glories of the kingdom of God are set forth. The order of nature is also set forth. The spirit and mortal worlds are described, and their orders set forth. 1. And it came to pass that Adam and Eve were placed in this world in a part thereof that was separated from the rest of this world that had already been created, and they were separated by many waters. 2. And this part was known as the Garden of Eden. And this garden was like unto the world that the brother of Jared had described when he visited the kingdom of the Father and met his eternal mother for the first time. 3. And the brother of Jared beheld that the rest of the world was inhabited by all manner of beasts and fowl, and that fishes were abundant in the seas and in the oceans. Nevertheless, Adam knew nothing of these other beasts and fowls and fishes. 4. Behold, there were also animals that appeared like unto Adam and Eve, they having lived among the order of animals in the other parts of the world. But Adam and Eve knew nothing of them, nor did these other mortal beings know about Adam and Eve. 5. And there were animals in the garden that was prepared for Adam and Eve, yet they were different from those that had been created in the other parts of this world. Nevertheless, the part of the world in which the Garden of Eden was placed also had many other animals, which were also in other parts of the world, but were no longer living there when the garden was prepared for Adam and Eve. 6. And the brother of Jared wrote concerning the many different animals that he had never before seen until this great vision, and marveled at their greatness and numbers. 7. And it came to pass that the Lord spake unto the brother of Jared, saying, Behold, these other creatures are those that the laws of nature require, in order for all things to be brought to pass in order. 8. Behold, one day all creatures will be known by the inhabitants of the earth, so that they may understand how the laws of nature and heaven cannot be altered or changed. 9. For many changes will take place in the parts of the world separated from the garden in which Adam and Eve have been placed. And these changes will prepare the earth to pass through its probationary state, so that it too can receive its paradisical glory. 10. Now I, Moroni, will not dwell much on the things which the brother of Jared learned at this time from the Lord. For these things will be made known at a later time in this record, where the discovery and understanding of these changes in nature, and also of these animals, will be discovered and understood by the children of men. 11. It sufficeth me to say that the Lord worketh with the laws of nature as they have been decreed from the beginning. Behold, these laws cannot be altered and must be obeyed in order for an eternal work to progress. Even God cannot alter the laws of nature, which are the eternal laws of heaven. Nevertheless, he useth them for his purposes and for his glory. 12. And now, I, Moroni, find it expedient to expound upon the words of the brother of Jared, which he wrote concerning the creation of this world, and also the worlds that are nearest unto the Son, which was created by the Father. 13. For it came to pass that Jesus made these things known unto him, and commanded him that he should write the things which he beheld. 14. And the brother of Jared was taken by the Father to an expanse of space that had no light. Therefore it was filled with darkness, and void of any light as it appeareth unto us on this earth. 15. And as he looked behind him, he could see the great expanse of the heavens, and he recognized this expanse by the stars that appeared immediately behind him. But in front of him there were no stars, neither was there any light that he could behold, and the great expanse of darkness was endless as his eyes beheld it. 16. And the Father stopped at the edge of the heavenly expanse that was recognizable by the brother of Jared. 17. And the Father commanded both the brother of Jared and Jesus to remain at the edge of this great void in the expanse of the heavens. And the Father continued on for a time into the great expanse until the brother of Jared could not see him any longer. 18. And Jesus spake to the brother of Jared, saying, The Father hath found a place in the greatness of the expanse of heavens, where he will create a son like unto the one that giveth light to the earth to which we belong. 19. And this power and knowledge is reserved for those who have proved themselves worthy of such power. Therefore, we are not able to see this great work performed, or hear the wonderful commands that the Father giveth to the elements that are necessary to create the power and glory of the Son. 20. And it came to pass that there immediately appeared an exceedingly bright flash of light, the size and breadth of which hath never been described by man, until the brother of Jared attempted to describe that which the Father caused to come to pass, as the brother of Jared wrote concerning this miraculous creation in the words of his vision. 21. And he wrote, saying, And this exceedingly immense light began to spin perpetually. And as it spun, other elements were present, and were attracted to the motion of the spinning body of this exceedingly great light. 22. And there were motions of many elements that I was unable to comprehend, and the end of which I did not understand. But as I watched the Father perform his work, I noticed that other balls of matter spun off the great ball of fire that he had created. And when they had been thrown out into the expanse of the darkness, they began to cool and became round like unto a ball. And these reflected the light from the new sun that the Father had created. And they became lights in the expanse of the great darkness. 23. And these balls of element did also spin in the same direction, and in the like manner that they had been thrown off by the great sun. And from their own spinning other balls were thrown off, and cooled close unto the balls from which they were formed. 24. And in this manner did I witness the Father creating a son, and the worlds that belong to that son, in the like manner of those that are next to the earth on which I reside. 25. And the Father appeared before me, and my brother, even Jesus Christ, and said unto me, My beloved Son, these are like unto the world in which thou livest. Behold, these are my creations, and belong to my kingdom like those that belong to the kingdom that I have placed in the authority of thy elder brother Jehovah. 26. Behold, one day these planets and these moons, which appear as the stars in the sky to thee, and thy brethren on the world in which thou livest, shall be the glories of my kingdoms for the children which I have created for this kingdom. 27. And there are 3 degrees of glory in my kingdom, and each degree hath 3 degrees, and to each of these pertaineth one of these planets which I have caused to be created. 28. And that planet closest to the sun shall be the highest degree in the celestial degree of glory, and the next unto it shall be the next degree, or in other words, the lower degree, and likewise shall all the degrees of glory in my kingdom be laid out before me until they once again reach the borders of this great darkness, which thou beholdest in the distance beyond the worlds that I have just created. 29. Behold, there is no glory that is lower than the next, for they lay before me in a perfect line, each in its own orbit circling the great light that I have caused to be created to give life unto them. 30. But the degrees of these glories shall differ, as the brightness of the sun differeth from the brightness of the moon, and also from the brightness of the stars. Nevertheless, even the moon and the stars receive their light from the sun. And likewise shall all my glories receive the same light, even my light in my kingdom. However, each will have a different degree of that light, and be empowered with different powers and limitations depending upon the amount of light each receiveth from the sun, or in other words, from me. 31. Now this is the great mystery that thy brethren do not understand, and they will not have this understanding, nor will they have this power, yea, even the power of creation, unless they receive it from me. And only those who inhabit those degrees of glory in my kingdom that are closest unto me shall receive this power. And to the rest will I give a portion of this power according to the rights and privileges associated to the degree of glory to which they belong. 32. And now, my beloved Son, it must needs be that the laws of nature are satisfied according to their foundation. and they have been founded on the eternal laws of heaven, which are unalterable and cannot be changed, but must be abided by in order to bring about the immortality and eternal life of my children. 33. And there must needs be order in all things, and with this order cometh the preservation and continuation of lives. 34. And it came to pass that the Father showed the brother of Jared how he separated the waters above the earth from the waters below the earth. In other words, he caused the air to appear and the rain to fall down perpetually upon the earth. 35. And there were seeds of all kinds brought unto the Father, and he blessed them and pronounced that they were good. And there went out many beings who had bodies like unto the Father to the earth that was created, and these beings spread the seeds throughout the entire earth. 36. And these seeds began to grow and take power from the sun, and transform this power into the atmosphere in which life could be brought forth. And these plants began to grow exceedingly, insomuch that they began to cover the entire earth. 37. And it came to pass that many strange and marvelous animals were brought before the Father from other worlds, that were known unto him. And he took these animals and blessed them, and placed them upon the earth to eat the plants that had overgrown the earth, thus assuring a natural balance in all things. 38. And these animals were exceedingly large and plentiful, even so much that they were able to eat the plants and assure that this natural balance was established and maintained. And other animals were brought to the Father and blessed and placed in the world to assure the delicate balance of those animals that received their nourishment from the plants. And these other animals could not eat plants, but received their nourishment from the flesh of those that ate the plants. 39. And there were exceedingly great numbers of these animals, and soon the earth was covered with them, each assuring that a natural balance was maintained. 40. And it came to pass that the animals that received their nourishment from the flesh of other animals began to rise up and destroy those that received their nourishment from the plants. And after they had eaten all those that they could find and catch, they began to eat each other until there were no more large animals upon the face of the whole earth. 41. And this is the plan and order of nature. For had the plants been allowed to grow unchecked, they would have overcome the world, and the balance of nature would be thwarted. And had those that consumed the plants been allowed to grow and produce unchecked, they would have eaten all the plants of the earth, and then there would be no air to breathe. Thus the process of life could not continue. 42. And it was wisdom in the Father, according to the laws of nature, that those animals that fed upon the flesh of others should consume all those that they could catch, thus preparing the earth for the eventual habitation of his children and the days of their probation. 43. And there were other animals that existed, whose bodies became like unto the bodies that the Father had created for Adam and Eve. And these began to use their bodies to rule and reign over the other creatures that lived with them on the world in which they were created. 44. Nevertheless, they were not the bodies that were prepared by the Father for his children to inhabit. And the Father gave a commandment unto Adam and Eve that they should not intermarry or create offspring with these other animals, or they would disobey the natural laws and create chaos in the world in which they were placed. 45. And it came to pass that after the Father had cleared the earth of the creatures that consumed the flesh of other animals, he prepared a garden in which he placed Adam and Eve. 46. And there were no animals that were in this garden that ate the flesh of those animals that received their sustenance from the plants. And Adam and Eve did not eat the flesh of any animal, and were commanded to abstain from such things, that it was an abomination to consume the flesh of any other animal that partook of the fruit of the plants and of the trees that the Father had caused to grow perpetually upon the earth. 47. Nevertheless, in other parts of the world, the Father allowed there to remain many animals that ate the flesh of other creatures, to maintain the balance of nature that was intended from the beginning. But in the Garden of Eden there were none. 48. And those animals in the other parts of the earth that were like unto Adam and Eve did also consume the flesh of other animals, But in this they did disobey the laws of nature, and died unnatural deaths because of the things that they did eat. 49. And Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden peacefully. And they did not grow old, nor did they clothe themselves and cover their nakedness. For behold, they did not know that they were naked, for they had never seen an animal that was not naked. And in this state of innocence did they exist forever. 50. And in this state the Father allowed Adam and Eve to live, to show unto all of his children the state in which all would remain, if it so be that they did not enter into mortality, and be subjected to the vicissitudes and sorrows of mortal life. And Adam and Eve were ignorant of their nakedness, or in other words, they did not know right or wrong, and were like unto little children. 51. And because they did not understand pain and misery, neither did they understand joy and happiness, and thus they could not understand the felicity of eternal happiness that their Father had explained unto them as spirit children. 52. And while Adam and Eve were living in the Garden of Eden, the rest of the spirit children of the Father were observing all things whatsoever were occurring unto them in the world that the Father had caused to be created for them. And they also beheld the animals and the other creatures that inhabited the other parts of the world, which were separated from the garden that was placed in the land that the Father called Eden. 53. And all the spirits observed these as they live without the laws of God, having been created with instincts that require them to live their lives according to the laws of nature. Nevertheless, these did not have free agency and were bound by the laws of these instructions that held them in the sphere of their individual creation, which had been given unto them by the Father who had created them. 54. And it was in this way that the Father caused to be taught those of his spirit children who had resided with their eternal mothers in his kingdom. 55. For behold, it was the purpose of the Father to teach his spirit children the laws that pertain to the eternal happiness that they desire. 56. And the Father caused a veil to be placed in the world that he had created. And this veil allowed those that were made of spiritual element to observe all things whatsoever that transpired in the mortal world, but did not allow those of the world or those who were mortal to observe the things of the spirit world. 57. And this he did by way of the eternal laws of nature. And this law is predicated upon the functions of light which are reflected, according to the element to which they react, thereby causing some things of element to be seen by the mortal eye, and other things to be seen only by and through the power of the Spirit. 58. For behold, even the wind that bloweth upon the face of the earth is the transference of eternal elements from one place to another, that cannot be seen by the mortal eye. 59. And a spirit can also move in the realm in which it has been placed. And when it moveth, being created of eternal element, it also displaceth the other elements that exist. And in this way a spirit createth the sensation of wind that is felt by a mortal. Nevertheless, a mortal cannot see the spirit unless he or she is allowed this privilege by the gift and power of God. 60. And so it is that all of the children of the Father, whether they are spirit children or those spirits which have taken upon themselves a body of flesh and bone, which is mortality, exist in the same world that was created for them. Therefore there is a mortal world and also a world of spirit. 61. And in this spirit world the children of the Father observe and learn all things whatsoever they might learn from observing the actions of those in the mortal realm, which these spirits have either once been a part of, or of which they will one day be a part. 62. Thus we can see the wisdom of God in allowing his children to view the experiences of mortality, whether they are a spirit or a living soul. And in this way the spirit children were able to observe the lives of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. End of chapter 7.